Good morning and happy Friday, everyone. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for November 22nd, 2024. Well, hope everyone had a good evening last night after a whopper of a day in the market yesterday. The bulls were just chasing anything moving yesterday, really stretching the indexes back up. But did we resolve anything? Well, that's the question. Let's take a look at that here in just a little bit. First off, let's take a look at what we've got going on in the overnight. Last night we saw Japan had a couple of numbers out yesterday. Their CPI number came in just slightly lower at 2.3 versus a 2.5. But their food prices actually went higher, so a little bit of shakeup there. Overall, they did a pretty good job in Asia, except for over in Shanghai and Hong Kong. Shanghai fell pretty sharply, 3.06% or 103 dollars. Hong Kong dropped 371 points at 1.89%. That had South Korea up, India was up. We saw the Nikkei move up 0.68%. Australia was up 0.85%. Overall. If we take a look at European markets this morning, we got a little bit of a mix going on. Slightly down in the DAX, 0.09%. The FTSE is up 0.67%, and the CAC also slightly lower, 0.25% this morning, as some of the business activity over there, the PMI, was not very favorable. And so we saw some declines there, and we're seeing some currency fluctuations as well as a result of that. And then if we take a look at U.S. futures here this morning, we're red across the board this morning, but since I have been here preparing for the video, they're already starting to pump it up in the pre-market, trying to push things right back up here. So keep an eye on that. Right now, Dow futures are only down 50 points. NASDAQ is down slightly, $12.50. And the NASDAQ futures are down 66 points at the moment. So kind of keep an eye on those. They could bounce around quite a bit here this morning. Let's take a look at what we've got going on in those bonds. Now, bonds continue to be a little bit of a problem for the overall market. We keep seeing these rates hold strongly. The 2-year bonds are at 4.32%. The 10-year is at 4.39%, and the 30-year 4.58%. So keep an eye on those today. Oil this morning is moving just slightly lower after a big strong move yesterday. If we take a look at XLE, getting just a tiny little pullback here on the producers, but right now we've got oil down 42 cents a barrel at 69.67. Brent is also down 35 cents at 73.88, and natural gas, after a big zooming move to the upside, catching a little rest today, right now down about 4 cents on the day. If we take a look at our precious metals, my goodness, gold is showing some strength here this morning, really zooming up, again breaking through resistance in the chart. Right now up $26.60 an ounce. Silver is also pushing to the upside, but we do have copper, platinum, and palladium lower. Palladium moving down by $24.40 an ounce. Now, if we take a look at the U.S. dollar gapping up here this morning. Big zooming move to the dollar. Right now, we've got the dollar up $1.03, almost $1.04 today. A big pop up here on the dollar, and as you can see, we're pushing up into these next levels of price resistance here in the UUP. So kind of keep an eye on that. A lot of strength here in the dollar as we're seeing, as I said, some currency fluctuations. We're seeing some currency fluctuations out of Australia, and excuse me, not Australia, Asian markets, and European markets here today as the pound falls pretty sharply today. So kind of keep an eye on that as we're zooming up in those dollars. Let's take a look at cryptos here this morning. Now, cryptos, we know they are on a march, and I think what we're probably going to see is they're not going to stop pushing this up until they make it to 100,000. And right now we are at up $753 a coin at 99,013. So kind of keep an eye on that. I just think I think we're so overbought and overstretched in this right now. It's very dangerous, I think, for a lot of folks to be chasing into this, but watch that closely as Bitcoin continues to surge. Ether, on the other hand, after a big booming day yesterday as well, it's slightly lower, $6.27 a coin. But we do have some green in most of those cryptos here today. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Friday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at these charts and see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today, remembering that we want to shake off that bias. We want to look at the charts for what they are and not for what we want them to be. Well, if you take a look here at the diamonds, quite the move there yesterday, and I had suggested this area right up in here, we'd have to watch that pretty closely to see if that holds as resistance. Well, yesterday we pushed right up in there and we breached it at one point, and then at the end of the day it faded back just a little bit in that area. Now you'll want to notice that there's that upside trend here in the chart, and although we held on to this price support, we still have this little concern about this resistance right in here. So if those bulls can find inspiration here today, then what we need to do is we need to push right on up through this area here. Push up through that area, and then I think there's every reason to believe we're going to test all-time highs here in the diamonds and push right on through, maybe even into blue sky. The worry would be at this point is if the bears have anything to say. If the bears have anything to say on this point and we were to actually pull back here, that would bring some worry into the market because that raises that possibility of a lower high. And one of the reasons I think that is possible is we're not seeing breadth follow this bullish enthusiasm here today. It's almost as if retail traders, or I'm not as sure what it is chasing in with wild abandon, and we're really not seeing the breadth of the market participate. So be really careful here. If we were to get a lower high in here, it won't be any problem unless we make a new low. So pushing down, back down into this support area won't cause any major problem. It would be if we break that low and start pushing on down, then we really are seeing that possibility of a downtrend beginning in the chart, and we could come back and fill this gap pretty quickly. So watch that closely. Now our SPY also maintaining a very bullish pattern here overall. As you can see, holding this support, but once again we still have that same problem here where we could find that little bit of resistance here in the chart. And you can see that I've placed this across in this area, and we've pressed and pressed and pressed against that to see if we can break on through. But watch that carefully here. We've got a hanging man little here at the moment. So if we can get that push up through here, then I think there's break through that that little area right there, and then I think we've got a pretty good chance we're coming back up here to test all-time highs and maybe blue sky highs. However, if the bears do have something to say, if we were to start to pull back from here, that's going to raise some concern. But it won't be tragic unless we break down through here. That's really going to see some worry pick up in the market because of the downtrending that creates. That might bring us into a gap fill here in the chart. We're going to need some more momentum here in the market, meaning some more breadth here if we're going to get this done. So watch that closely. And then if we look at our QQQ, still a little bit of a concern. We popped up there yesterday. We did break back through this resistance high and pulled back just barely, holding on to that. So if the bulls can continue to find inspiration here today, one of the things we need to do is breach the top of that, and then we need to move up here and see if we can break through into that island reversal area here in the chart. If we can't break up through there, well, we may have some trouble, but breaking through up in here, then I think we can start pressing up into these areas. Perhaps next week, we'll see. If the bears, however, have anything to say here and we dip back below this this area of support in the chart, then there may be a little bit of worry coming up here about that lower high coming in, and as we push back down to test these support levels here in the chart, that'll be the concern when we drop through there, maybe coming back to fill the gap. We'll want to watch those things pretty closely. If we take a look at our IWM, kind of an interesting chart here in the zigzagging that we're doing in this chart. But the good news is we got back up through this resistance in the chart, and this resistance is some of the highs of 2022 in the Russell. So kind of keep an eye on that. If getting back up here, if we can continue to push, I'm still going to be watching this area right here as a potential resistance area in the chart. We might need to rest here and then find that way to the upside. I don't know why we're in such a market condition that it's either zooming in or racing out. There's nothing in between. We're either chasing in wild abandon or we're running for the door in panic. It really is indicative of topping price action, if you ask me, in my experience in 2008 and 1989 in the markets. Yes, I am that old. It is concerning that we're chasing up with such wild abandon here in the market without a follow through in breadth. So just be really careful here. But if we can push on through this area of resistance in the chart, then I think there's every reason to believe then we're back up here testing some resistance of this recent high, and then maybe even a push on through to all-time highs here in IWM. However, if the bears were to engage right in this area and we start pushing back, breaking back down below this area, would probably raise some concern of that lower high and that possible downtrend setting up. And of course, pushing on back down through this area would confirm that, and that would fill the gap here in IWM. If we take a look at our VIX, interestingly enough, as we were just being super bullish in the market yesterday, as you can see, the VIX held up pretty strongly here. We're holding in here almost 17 handles in the VIX. So interesting that we could be that bullish and still have that much fear creeping up. So we need to see those bulls. If they can start doing something here, we need to see some real good confirmation that they can start pushing this fear back in the market, or I think we're setting up a pretty good pullback here on this rally. So watch that carefully. If the bears really get going here and start pushing up through these areas, you could see how we could move on through and fill this gap if we start to fall very hard in the market. If we take a look at our T20s, Our T2122 pushed all the way back up there. We almost made it into that bearish reversal zone. So we've still got a little bit of upside, and I'm really kind of hoping that we can pump it up here in the pre-market like we just the norm. Just pump it up and get a gap going so that we can get as many people buying as possible. And if we pop up into this area here, I will be looking for the potential for some short positions to take advantage of the potential pullback here in the market. We've really stretched here big time in T2122 on this enthusiasm. So keep an eye on that. Remember, if the bulls find inspiration, we do have some upside room. But keep in mind, we have opened up a really big downside opportunity as well if the bears have anything to say. If we take a look at our T2107, finally we got a little bit of an improvement there in T2107 on that, or T21, yeah, sorry, I did put up T2107. The percentage of stocks above the 200-day moving average got a little bit of price action going there, pushing back up. We did recover a little bit of price resistance in here. Clearly, we've got a lot more to go in here as we continue to press this market back higher. If the bears have anything to say, retest of this support, maybe down in here would be the place we want to look. And the percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average also got a nice little boost here to the upside yesterday with the big push. You can see we're still moving in a downtrend here overall. Got a little resistance right in here to be paying attention to. So if those bulls can get going here today, we need to break through that downtrend up here and start coming up and testing some of these areas. If the bears, however, find some kind of inspiration here on the day, then a push down into here would not be a major concern. It would be whether or not we break lower than that. Remember, our 50% area is right in here. So we did improve on that yesterday. Our T2101, though, here's what I'm concerned about. T2101, as we saw that big zooming move, take a look, the breadth of the market actually declined. So the momentum that we're seeing here in the market is really fading while we're zooming to the upside. So we'll want to be keeping a close eye on that. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, not a real busy day. A couple things we'll want to be paying attention to. Again, we're going to be getting our PMI numbers, so keep an eye on that. They are expecting those PMI numbers to come in. Well, you can see they didn't give us a consensus here on this, but I think they were, I did see an expectation of someone else, a little tiny improvement maybe in the PMI. And then manufacturing, they're looking at that to increase a little bit. That might be a little bit of a problem considering the manufacturing number we saw yesterday. So watch that carefully. And services, they're looking for that to decline just slightly. So PMI this morning, and then we're going to get our consumer sentiment number. Consumer sentiment right now, consensus is suggesting flat on both of those numbers. Watch that closely. That just seems like a guess when they do that to me. Like, well, we're not sure. Just use the last number. But watch that carefully. An increase in sentiment would be a good thing for the market. A decrease might cause a little bit of concern. Let's take a look. We've got Treasury buyback in here. We're going to have the Baker Hughes rig count. And then we've got Bauman speaking again for the final speech of this week. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar. And our earnings calendar, there really is only one thing that I've got on the earnings calendar here for today as a potential notable, and that's the buckle. BKE, about the only thing, BKE, about the only thing we've got to worry about here this morning on the morning reports, and there are no notable reports for this afternoon. So very light day for inspiration there. But as I've been talking, as I said, it's every day, it's the same thing. We start pumping and pumping and pumping into the pre-market. Right now, Dow futures are only down 19 points. The S&P 500 futures down 8 points. NASDAQ still down 46. Feeling a little bit of pressure there, but we're already getting that lift and that pump here in the pre-market. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up, so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that'd be click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. I do truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks setting up. Remember, everyone, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. Make sure you're following your risk tolerance rules in the market and your trading guidelines. Let's take a look at a few of these. Some interesting moves here in places of the market. Altria continuing to set up here in this chart. Boy, one of these old defensive sector company stocks showing just lots and lots of strength here. So I would watch that closely. I don't know where this trend is really. We're kind of trying to figure that out right in here. Or it could be out here, I don't know. Watch that closely here in Altria. Looking pretty good, though. If it can pop through this all-time high or these all-time highs in the market, you can see that would be a big potential move there for Altria. And then, of course, Philip Morris having a good day yesterday as well. Popped up, ended up pulling back just a little bit. Little rest and consolidation still out here to trend, I think, is just exactly what a person wants to see. And watch for that next opportunity in here for Philip Morris to make that move on to the upside. Certainly looks like a possibility as we are staying very bullish in that area. Now, I don't know exactly why this was happening yesterday, but we saw a lot of defensive sector stocks just really pushing back to the upside. CPB trying to come up. We saw Hershey trying to come up. We saw Kroger trying to make a move higher. So defensive sector stocks might be coming into play here, and I'm wondering if we might be seeing the beginning of a little bit of rotation here by institutions. So watch that carefully. They've got a long way to go for a lot of them to get much done. But that being said, Kroger looking pretty good here. Kroger, that nice little resting consolidation, pulling back in here, starting to push back up. I think that is worth keeping an eye on. And there are several others in that area that might be interesting. When we talk about consumer defensive, things like Procter & Gamble really is not in that sector. It's consumer. Well, no, I'm wrong. Procter & Gamble is in the consumer defensive. As you can see, pushing up in this area, little resting pullback in here could set up an opportunity, but Procter looking very strong here overall. So we are seeing some of those things starting to come around. Keep an eye on this BMY continuing to set up in here. Now, this one kind of surprises me that it's showing so strong, because we've got the new administration coming in on, kind of full attack on some of these drug makers. So watch that carefully here, but it is looking pretty good at the moment. Take a look at Chipotle. Chipotle had a good push yesterday, trying to break through this resistance here. Keep an eye on that. If we can finally pop this area up here, might need a rest after it does that, pop up in here, rest a little bit, and then look for that next opportunity. But Chipotle coming around looking pretty good to the upside. I saw stocks like HPE yesterday really starting to make some moves here, looking good, breaking through some resistance. Obviously, we've got some work to get through up here, but showing lots of bullishness overall. So keep an eye on that. Of course, still watching this chart here in CAR. I think that's a pretty nice looking chart, very well set up here. Unfortunately, looking at the options, if you're an option trader, options weren't that great, but keep an eye on it. MPC setting up in here. We're seeing a lot of the oil sector stocks showing lots and lots of bullishness. Keep an eye on that. Intel continues to set up here. You can see I've got this alerted, just resting out here toward the trend. I'd keep an eye on that if we get any kind of bullishness in the market for that upside push. I think that is certainly possible. Also thinking FANG is setting up here. Nice little resting pattern in there. Keep an eye on that. Humana continues to set up, trying to break this big downtrend here in the chart. So there are a lot of potential trades here to be paying attention to, and they're really all over the place, more than you can shake a stick at. However, we also have some pain in the market. Take a look at Google. Google running into some major problems here. Federal government trying to force them to sell off or break up the Chrome browser. And as you can see, now we have an official downtrend here in Google, breaking through support, lower high, lower low. Any rally back in here, I would be watching for that next potential short in the chart. Keep a close eye on that. Not feeling so happy here at the moment on Google. And then if we take a look at AMD is all set up for that next potential short. You can see we've been moving in this downtrend. We've consolidated out here to this trend. Any additional pressure on that, I would suggest AMD could move on lower. So keep an eye on that. And Amazon had a little bit of a rough day yesterday, coming back into this trend. This could go either direction. We could use this area as support and bounce right off of this. Watch that carefully. If this were to slip on through down in here, that could be a little bit of a problem for Amazon, so watch that closely. So there's a few stocks for you to pay attention to today. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the kind words of support in the comments this week. You guys are truly awesome. I really, really appreciate it. You know, as we head into next week, remember we're going into the holiday. There's going to be some shakeup and you know, the morning prep videos and things. As a matter of fact, on Monday, I've got an early doctor's appointment. So on Monday morning, I don't think I'm going to be able to get a morning market prep video out. In fact, I'm pretty sure of that. I won't get that out. And then I am traveling on Wednesday for Thanksgiving. And I think I will be able to get the morning prep out that morning before I take off. But remember that our right way options will be closed on Wednesday afternoon. The market closes early. We will not be open, obviously, on Thursday. And Friday, the trading rooms will be open, but we will not be moderating those trading rooms. And I would really suggest to everyone, just take some time off with your family. It's been a crazy year. Be with your family. The market's going to be here when you get back. And remember, volumes are usually very, very low. You end up trading with the computers most of the time because the trading floors are going to be empty. So be very, very careful here for next week and really plan that time with your family. That is way more important than what happens here in the market. So y'all take care and be safe. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. And I want to wish you all the very, very best. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.